It's the Opperman Report. Join digital forensic investigator and PI Ed Opperman for an in-depth discussion of conspiracy theories, strategy of New World Order resistance, high-profile court cases in the news, and interviews with expert guests and authors on these topics and more. It's the Opperman Report. And now, here is investigator Ed Opperman.
Okay, welcome to the Opperman Report. I'm your host, Private Investigator Ed Opperman. You can find me at Opperman Investigations and Digital Forensic Consulting through my website, emailrevealer.com, or you can just email me directly at oppermaninvestigations@gmail.com. And if you go to Spreaker.com, you sign up for free, you get an email notification anytime we put up new content, and you'll find quite a few shows that I did with our next guest, A.J. Weberman, who is one of the founding fathers of the Yippie movement on the Lower East Side of New York City. And he wrote the book Coup d'Etat in America, as well as many other books. Another one I would recommend is Jerry Did It, about the JFK assassination. Mr. A.J. Weberman, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Hey, thank you so much, man. Hey, remind the audience, tell me, who's A.J. Weberman?
I'm the inventor of the word garbology, which was the scientific study of garbage. Before that, the Australian garbage men were called garbologists, but there was no science until I discovered garbology when I went through Bob Dylan's garbage, And the first thing I picked out of the garbage was an unfinished letter to Johnny Cash, in Dylan's handwriting. And I said, wow, this garbage can is a gold mine. So I came back and, studied Dylan's trash. And he set up a surveillance camera across the street. And he told me he was happy when he found out it was me and not somebody who was trying to clock his movements to kidnap his kids or something along those lines.
Yeah, but your relationship...
And that was Dylanology.
By the way, that is a groundbreaking event. A lot of private investigators for years use that tactic of going and taking people's garbage and going through their garbage. That was invented by A.J. Weberman.
Yeah, journalists too.
Yeah. But now, AJ, your relationship with Dylan has been up and down, right?
Yeah, I've been, I was down one time, like literally on the pavement. Like when he came after me on Elizabeth Street. Yeah. After I ran into his wife. And, his wife, Novitsky, her father was like mobbed up. Okay. And he ran this junkyard. And he somehow double-crossed the mob, and they came and they shot him in the junkyard. So Sarah was a tough cookie, so I was there with, like, this woman from AP who would go through the garbage, and Sarah comes out, and, I disrespected her, I said, if this garbage means so much to you, why throw it out, Mm-hmm. So Dylan, I should have just run away the minute I saw her. And then, so that afternoon, Dylan came around, and I was closing up 6 Bleecker Street. I was heading out to Madison, Wisconsin, and he jumped me. And, he banged my head against the pavement. Before he did that, he took my Bob Dylan button and threw it, off of my chest and threw it on the ground. And, or was that afterwards? I don't know. Maybe it was afterwards. Oh, yeah, so of course some hippies pulled him off. And then this bum comes, this is the Bowery, where all the bums are, And so this bum comes over and asks me, he says, did he get much money? I says, man, that's Bob Dylan. He doesn't have to come down to the Bowery to roll hippies, So we had ups and downs.
Now, AJ,
I know what it's like to be Sarah Dillon, to have him on top of me. I'm telling you.
Let me ask you a question, AJ. Now, when we were talking in email, you have a theory that you think that possibly Bob Dylan may already be dead?
Yeah, it's based on a couple of things, like selling the catalog, and the thing that got me was the Springsteen song. One second, let me just go there. to BobDylanDied.com. There's certain things in there like, first of all, I believe he was HIV positive, and he almost died from disseminated histoplasmosis at one point. And, COVID had almost killed me. So, he was, his immune system was compromised. So I know a lot of people have died during this course of this pandemic.
Well, then, AJ, then what do you say to these people that are saying, well, it's a pandemic, it's all fake, it's a hoax, people aren't really dying, all that kind of crazy stuff? Because you're a conspiracy guy from way back. You're
I'm
the original.
I'm a historian. I'm not
I know
a
what you mean.
Conspiracy theory person.
But, AJ...
I rely on documents.
Yeah, JFK researcher, though, one of the renowned, historical guys.
I don't know, man. They're like, like the Q people. They're like delusional.
Yeah.
And it's all based, this one dude who's been saying it, this guy Rothstein, he's been saying the same thing forever and ever. Since 2017. He's started out with this. He's an ex-New York City Vice Squad cop who was operating at a time when there were sodomy laws on the books here. So he would go shake down people for money after he found out they were gay, and he got kicked off the force in 1980 when they repealed the sodomy laws. And Rothstein has been saying this years before Q surfaced on iChan or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And he said the exact same stuff, that the government is controlled by a bunch of pedophiliacs, and that Trump is in power to combat them. He said that not, after Trump came into power. So, and then also Q claims he lives on an island, and this guy lives in Martinique. He's like, retired or kicked off the force or something. He calls himself retired.
Well, AJ, I've had Jim Rothstein on the show several times. I think some of his information's okay. He did come on. The last time he was on, he started talking about he believed in those sealed indictments, that there were all these sealed indictments. It was a sealed grand jury, and Trump was going to round people up. And
so
all this
this dude?
Oh, I know him, yeah. I know him, yeah.
So what do you think?
I don't think
he could be Q?
I don't think he's technically savvy enough to be Q. And definitely not. I'm curious about, though, with
Well, you have to be technically savvy. All you have to do is log on and start posting.
Yeah, I don't think... Yeah.
Or you could use something else. You could use Tor browser or something, or a private network,
He would have to have major help, okay, to do that. And now, a couple of things. You're right. He thinks that Trump is the savior of the world and Trump's a good guy. But now, how could he think that when he's the source of information about Roy Cohn being such a dirtbag and doing all kind of stuff?
Yeah, him and his partner. The partner tells me, Matty Rosenthal told me that, he had this Puerto Rican kid who described the inside of Roy M. Cohn's townhouse to a T,
Yeah.
But they couldn't touch Cohn because he had too much political influence. I got Cohn's garbage, by the way.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I agree with you on that.
I got his garbage.
I love it. What'd you find in there, man?
I found, the first thing I found was the name Gambino.
Yeah.
I said, oh, shit, I got the wrong garbage.
Now, back to Rothstein. I know you have a problem with him, too, about Marita Lorenz.
Yeah, first he tells me that him and his partner drove down to the gas station where Marita Lorenz, Frank Sturgis, Pedro Diaz-Lanz, the whole crew, probably Chris, I don't know how he got there, was, the caravan from Miami to Dallas before the assassination. And Marita said they stopped at some gas station. So first he tells me that him and his partner drove down and talked to the gas station owner, and the gas station owner said that, he remembered them around that time, which is highly, questionable. And the second time he says, no, we called the gas station. And, he never testified about any of this before the House Select Committee on Assassinations. So, I dropped him as a source because he's just trying to write himself into history, which is another reason I think he's Q. Also, Q has this obsession with the Kennedy assassination of Jr. So who knows? But he's the most likely candidate I've come across so far.
Well, have you looked into that guy Watkins down in the Philippines down there, the pig farmer?
No, I haven't.
Yeah, we have to have a little talk about that off the air, because I'm pretty sure that's who it is. He calls himself a computer expert. The guy that runs 4chan, his son is a Code Monkey on Twitter. Are you on Twitter?
Yeah, of course.
Okay, I got to follow you on Twitter. Now, recently you got kicked off of Facebook again, right?
No, not recently. That was back when, I was Linda Sassour's brother was working in a glatt kosher restaurant, so we had him fired. So she had her law firm, Jenner and Block, contact all the people and say that I was in violation of various, laws and, agreements with the provider there. So they kicked me out of there. Oh, no. What they did with that one was they had somebody hack the account and then continue to repost these anti-Muslim terrorist tweets that I made, that were really, anybody could see they were out of date. Years later, they reprinted one where Obama says in his speech at Cairo University, he says, now we have to talk about things in the open that was once talked about behind closed doors. So what that meant was we got to get rid of Mubarak. So, that's the way things are. I don't know, man.
Now you had another problem, too, when you wrote a book about...
The thing is with the Dylan thing.
Yeah.
Springsteen writes this thing, your old buckskin jacket. Like Dylan wore that on the cover of the Freewheeling. Was a poster that hangs on the back of my room. That was made into a poster. Boots and spurs you used to ride. Dylan used to boot up, which means shoot up. And he also wore boots all the time, and and like a spur is like a short needle, like a spike, And then he says, it's just your ghost moving through the night, spirit filled with light. I need you by my side, your love, and I'm alive. I can feel the blood shiver in my bones. I'm alive. I'm out here on my own. I'm alive. I'm coming home. And then he says, your raspy voice or something. Let me see. Gravelly voice is part of the poem.
And this is a song that Bruce Springsteen wrote.
Just sang. Who had a gravelly voice?
Now, and what would the motivation be to keep this all a secret?
Let me see if I can find this gravelly. I hear the sound of your guitar coming from the mystic far, stone and gravel in your voice. I hear the sound of Bob Dylan's guitar coming in from heaven afar. In your early records, or oily, your early records, you were described as having stone and the gravel in your voice. When you come back in my poems, I thank God and rejoice. So, it sounds like gravelly voice, brown suede jacket, boots, the records are by my side, not CDs or downloads, records. It sounds like a eulogy to Bob Dylan.
Now, does Springsteen ever specifically mention Dylan?
No, it doesn't mention Dylan, because this is a big secret.
Gotcha.
He's in on it because of his stature as a rock superstar and a rock poet.
And Dylan was supposed to receive a big award in the past year, I guess, right? And he didn't show up.
No, I didn't know about that.
You don't know about that?
Award was that?
It was about 2 years ago. It was a huge award, and it might have been like a Nobel Peace Prize.
The Nobel Prize, you mean?
Yeah, it was. Yeah, it was Nobel Peace Prize. Yeah, and he didn't show up.
No, he was alive. He showed up eventually.
Oh, he did show up. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. And people should know that A.J. Weberman is known as the Dylanologist, who used to interpret the Bob Dylan lyrics since way back in the 60s. Is considered an expert on these things. It's kind of a niche expertise, kind of a niche field there, interpreting
It's
him.
all weird, man, I'll tell you.
It is.
Dylan turned out to be a neo-Confederate.
What is a neo-Confederate?
It's someone that, wants to go back to the Confederacy.
Really?
Yeah. And, I just got it all backwards, So...
let me ask you this. Another thing. Now, by the way, that link you sent me with the article about Rothstein, that's your work? That's your writing?
Yeah.
Okay, then people should go there and check this out. It's A.J. Weberman's new platform.
Nelia Biden.
Yeah, Nelia Biden. NeliaBiden.com. Now, does that have to do with Joe Biden? What's going on with that?
It sure does.
Let's hear it.
The question, let me just go there for a sec, so I have these, notes. The story is that, on 18 December 1972, Nelia she put her kids in the car, right? 3 kids, Hunter, Bo, and Naomi. And she drove off to buy a Christmas tree. I don't understand why Joe didn't do it himself instead of sending the kid or his wife along. But maybe he thought she'd get a babysitter. But she didn't. Nelia didn't want to leave the children with a babysitter, because you know who that babysitter would have been? It would have been Jill Biden, who was the now Jill Biden, Jill Giancoppa, or Giancoppa, or Dr. Jill Biden, or Dr. Jill Biden, MD, or Jill Tracy Jacobs, I'm telling you. So,
wait, what do you mean by all that? The Jill Biden is some weird story about Jill Biden, that she was their babysitter?
Yeah, she was their babysitter, according to Jill's ex-husband, William Stevenson.
I had no idea about that.
Yeah, Stevenson was like a hippie. He ran this place called the Stone Balloon. That was like, a takeoff on the Stone Pony. And, she was there. And, she was married to him, but, something tells me she was like a groupie, with all the rock bands that played there. But, so...
Okay, but then...
she said, so what she did, so she said, screw it, I'm not going to leave. I don't want this coming into my abode here, to my house. I'll load the kids in the car and get the Christmas tree. And then before she left, she had a drink of booze, to ease the pain of knowing that her husband was cheating on her. And so she got to an intersection where she didn't have the right of way, and she went through the intersection. She stopped, and then she went through it, and she was T-boned by a big rig, and the rig overturned, and the guy got out. Curtis Dunn got out of the car, pulled the kids out, tried try to save the mother and the daughter, but the mother and the daughter were deceased. And, this would have ruined his career if it was known as a Dewey. But fortunately, the investigation was conducted by this guy, Delaware Assistant Attorney General Jerome O'Hurley, who was his neighbor and lived next door, and who destroyed all the documents about the investigation and wouldn't tell me whether they conducted a post-mortem toxicology test. So they covered that up, that she was driving while impaired.
And what's the official story? That just she had an accident?
Yeah, that she had an accident. But there's I did a Freedom of Information request in Pennsylvania or wherever it was, no, Delaware, for the documents, and you can see it on the website that they say that there's no documents, and then Politico, I think, did one with the police, and the state police said they have no documents. And then the other dude, O'Hurley, he says he has no copies of the file. And you tell me that he wouldn't save a file of that much historical interest. What he did was he burned those files, and he saved Joe's career. And he's the kingmaker. He's the one that put Joe Biden as president of the United States. Jerome O'Hurley.
Now, and this is why you think that Hunter turned out to be such a deviant.
Then another thing is that Jill, she says, I first met him on a blind date in '74. And then she says, in that tweet, she says, the first thing he said to me was, tune in tomorrow night and watch me at the convention. Guess what? There was no convention in '74.
All right, it was 72.
It was in 72.
That's right.
That's when Biden spoke. So she screwed up on that one. And then in her book, she says she never met Joe except at one time at a victory party, when he won the election. And then in an interview, she said that she met him on another occasion at a fundraising party. So she changed her story on that. So she's definitely lying about when they met. And then, Stevenson says that the cops came to him and says, your car has been involved in an accident. Says, who was driving? Joe Biden was driving, and Jill was in with him.
Wait a second. Someone said that Joe was driving in that accident?
The cops came to Stevenson. This is according to him. And he said, the cops told him that your automobile was in an accident. And they said, who was driving? And they said, none other than Joe Biden was driving, and Jill was in the car. So then he knew that Jill was cheating on him.
Gotcha.
Which he had been doing all along on the sly.
Hey, how old would Jill have been in 72? Do you know?
Let me see.
Because in this picture, she looks pretty young in 74. No, that's 2012. Oh, no. Whatever the date of this picture is. That's the date of the...
in a second.
Yeah.
Jill Biden. She was born in 1951.
Okay, we're going to have to do some math. 51 to 72. So,
yeah.
21.
2 years. 21 years?
21.
23 years?
I think I came up with 21.
Okay, 21 years, okay.
And 72 minus 51 is 21. So she would have been 21 years old, okay. And I wonder how old he was at the time. Probably, because he looks a lot older over there. What do you make of all this stuff? You see these creepy Joe videos of Joe Biden.
He wasn't gay, I'll tell you that much.
Okay.
You know,
Have you seen the picture of him kissing his granddaughter on the mouth? The video?
No.
Yeah, that happened in Nevada. So we were there in Nevada when it happened. The night it happened, and it swept through the community like wildfire. Everybody was talking about
his
it.
Granddaughter in the mouth?
Yes, on stage at a rally. Okay? And it's a very creepy photo. And very interesting, too, because you mentioned here, even in your writing, that what happened to Hunter Biden that turned him into such a deviant drug addict?
The accident.
Do you think it was the accident?
Yeah. That, you know, he had a concussion.
Right.
You know,
Head
the
injury.
whole thing, you know, boom, he was T-boned and the car was just smashed in and, you know, rolled over on its side. And, you know, he had a concussion. And look at the other, Bo. He got a brain tumor. And
right.
It's disputed, but some people believe that, you know, concussions can lead to brain tumors later in life. So that might have been a very consequential accident. You know, that, you know, then Biden said that this is the, you know, forget this altogether, man.
Yeah.
That lowlife, he said that this guy Dunn, Curtis Dunn, was drunk, and that was why the accident occurred. And they did a breathalyzer on him and a blood test, and he wasn't drunk. Biden made that up to deflect suspicion from Nelia. And that's the first thing that, you know, clued me into this, that there was something funny about this whole thing. When he's accusing some innocent guys, some dude who never did anything to anybody, just picked randomly out of a hat. He's accusing him of being a baby killer. You know, being drunk and killing a baby, a 3-month-old baby.
And you say that this is not the first time Joe Dirt let a fall guy take the blame? What's going on with that?
Yeah, he said something where he did some panty raid and he blamed it on somebody else in college. And, you know, he, like, you know, has a, you know, the way he got elected was he was working with the mafia, and they blew up a train carrying ink when they were going to, his opposition was going to, what's his name, Boggs was going to run an ad, and they couldn't run the ad because the ink truck blew up, you know. And Biden's very unprincipled. Of course, he passed that crime bill, you know, with him and Strom Thurmond, you know.
Yeah.
You know what, you know, like Nixon, like, I think it was one of Nixon's guys, Haldeman or Ehrlichman or somebody, said that, you know, during the Vietnam War period, we were against, like, you know, hippies, and anti-war protesters. We couldn't make it illegal to be an anti-war protester, so we strengthened the marijuana laws and used that as a way to get them. And this is exactly what Biden and Thurmond were doing, because Biden's town was just, when he got out of college, guess what? The National Guard was in Delaware, was in Wilmington, you know, and he saw his beloved town destroyed. And, you know, so he wanted revenge, so he got together with Strom Thurmond, and he says, how are we going to get these, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And, you know, they figured, these people like crack. Let's make crack 100 times more illegal than, you know, regular cocaine and powdered cocaine. And we'll lock these people up for so long that they won't be able to reproduce. And we'll get rid of them through a form of genocide. You know, that's why I call him Genocide Joe. But all this is forgiven and forgotten, you know.
Yeah. But AJ, you said you had some things you want to tell us about Larry King.
Yeah, it's a shame that he passed on to the, above there. And, this stuff about him, he was convicted of a felony for, this guy Louis Wolfson was a Jewish multimillionaire, was dying, and so Larry King visited him in his hospital room and convinced him to give all his money to Jim Garrison, who was conducting an investigation of the Kennedy assassination, which obsessed Larry King. So, Louis did it, and then the family says he was non-compos mentis, right. And that Larry King pulled a fast one, and that money really belongs to them. And Larry got convicted of a felony. I pulled the records when I was going through the stuff at the Miami courthouse. So, Larry was he was a cool guy. He had me on his show a lot.
Oh, really? So you had a personal relationship with Larry King?
Yeah. After the Louis Wolfson thing, they demoted him, to like sports page. And my mother rehabilitated him with all his women's groups. And then, he got his radio show back, and I appeared on it and talked about Meyer Lansky, and he called me up and he says, you better stop, bandying Meyer Lansky's name around in relation to the Kennedy assassination, because I had dinner with him, and he's not too happy with you, know. So I asked him what he had for dinner. He said boiled beef flanken. And I asked him if he had horseradish with it to make sure it was the real Meyer Lansky. And I met Meyer Lansky in Miami when Howard Hunt was suing me for coup d'etat in America. We were going, me and my lawyer were going into this deli, and I see this old Jewish guy, and I says, oh man, that looks just like Meyer Lansky. So then I says, oh, it is Meyer Lansky. So I went over and I says, Mr. Lansky, can I have your autograph? He says, what am I up for, an Academy Award this year? I says, no, you're a great American like Abe Lincoln, George Washington. He says, you're very funny, but you can't have my autograph.
Oh.
So, enough with the Meyer Lansky stories,
Okay, enough with Meyer Lansky. Now, what about, you wrote a book about Rudy Giuliani and his relationship with that pedo priest.
Yeah, Rudy and Alan Plaka, like they were at Bishop Laughlin High School together. And they couldn't, if they would have formed a gay after-school club, they would have been beaten to death. Because back in that time in Brooklyn, if a gay ever approached you, or even, you thought that you were being approached by a gay, you had to beat that person up, or you weren't a man. This was more prevalent among Italians than it was among Jews. But in any event, they started an opera club, where they could, instead of listening to rock and roll, they could listen to the opera. And later on, Plaka would stay over at night at Rudy's apartment, and the two guys would lock themselves in the room and have meditation together. And Plaka was, had been accused by this guy, Tollner, of molesting him. But by the time Tollner got around to, making these charges, the statute of limitations was up. So Plaka got off of the hook. Also, Plaka was the guy that was in charge of investigating all these accusations of clergy abuse for the church, And he's, that Plaka, he lives in Florida now, and he has got a concealed carry permit, because he's afraid that some of the kids that he raped are going to come back and settle scores.
Isn't he still on the payroll?
Packing priest.
He's still on the payroll of Giuliani Associates, right?
No, he's retired and living in Florida.
Okay, because there was an article not too long ago that he was still being paid and employed by him.
Yeah, he was being paid by Rudy.
Yeah. And when you were researching
they were lovers, when Rudy had to go someplace or something. He stayed with gay people on the West Side or something. He got a whole thing, of getting dressed, cross-dressing.
Right.
The lisp.
Now, when you did that, when you wrote that book,
when he was in high school, the boxing club. So if anybody ever said he was gay, he could knock him out. Overcompensation.
Now you went under a lot of abuse and harassment when you wrote that book, right?
Yeah, from the IRS, basically.
Yeah.
He stuck the IRS on me.
And in researching that book, you managed to get a hold of Ray Lawrence, who was the
Lawrence Ray.
Lawrence Ray, who was the best man at Bernie Kerrick's wedding, paid for Bernie Kerrick's wedding, and also was the pimp living there with the Sarah Lawrence girls.
That was him.
Yeah. No, what happened with all that?
Ray.
Yeah.
He was like. His real name wasn't Ray; it was an Italian name, and his father was brought up from the Midwest because they couldn't find any honest Jews or Italians in New York City, so they had to import people from the Midwest to, run the government.
Right.
And so that's how I got the name Ray. And he claimed he was an international spy, and he set up a meeting with Gorbachev and Giuliani. No, Gorbachev and Giuliani or somebody who was mayor. And he was he was a source of information that him and Kerrick had the laundry contract for Rikers Island and getting kickbacks from the company that did it. And, he had a lot of information. But then the dude, he got into trouble for something or other, out in New Jersey. And they put out a warrant for his arrest, and they couldn't find him. So they were searching all this area. They said that he had 5 different cell phones, and so I've been in touch with him. So I left a message on his machine, before he went underground, and I says, "Hey, Larry, where are you, man? Call me back. It's AJ." So guess what? So then the cops figured that I was harboring him.
Oh no!
So I went out to walk the dog, because they didn't, and then all of us, my wife says, hey, there was 3 federal agents and, 4 local detectives in here, and they said there was a gangbanger loose in the building, and, they wanted to search the apartment. So they searched the apartment, and then they saw he wasn't there because he was eluding their capture.
It sounds like the cops are coming back for you, man.
So
I can hear the sirens in the background. Now, how did you come across Ray, though, as a source? How did you find this guy?
How did I find Lawrence Ray? Let me see. I think it had to do with this interstate interstate construction company or something where they were trying to get a license in Atlantic City to do construction on the casinos.
Okay. And why did
come up in that investigation?
Why did Ray say he had a falling out with Kerrick?
I don't know. He was like a kind of person who had a falling out with everyone.
Yeah.
He was like a social personality.
Yeah. And he's also the source that got Kerrick arrested for all his charges.
I didn't know that.
Oh, yeah.
Kerrick should have just pleaded. He should have pleaded guilty, instead of fighting the whole thing.
What do you make of this whole Capitol insurrection, the take over the Capitol, all that kind of stuff? Do you think that was a well-planned?
It's a rebellion. is what it is. Like Shays Rebellion or the Whiskey Rebellion. It's not a riot.
Okay.
Different. It had a political aim. It was sedition. It was designed to overthrow the United States government. That was the name of the game.
And have you looked into this? Like this Liebengood and his father's connection to Stone and Manafort?
Yeah, but, Liebengood also was connected to the investigation of the Kennedy assassination when I worked for Senator Schweiker.
That's right. I forgot all about that. Tell us about that.
His name came up in that investigation. He was one of Schweiker's guys in the, church committee. So, that kind of bordered on the Kennedy assassination.
So when you see this character...
But Hunt confessed eventually.
Yeah.
Rolling Stone, he confessed. He said, I was part of the crew for the big event. And, he was something, Howard Hunt. He's an amazing dude.
Did you guys get along when you weren't suing each other?
Yeah, I got along with Hunt, but, his lawyer, Ellis Rubin, liked to put me through changes.
Yeah.
So, I had the press there whenever Hunt would show up for a deposition. So Hunt gets up during one of his depositions and he says, his lawyer says, Your Honor, how is my client going to get a fair trial when all of these press shows up whenever he comes in for a deposition? So I got up and I said, Your Honor, Hunt's not the one that's on trial. I'm the one that gets the fair trial. I'm the defendant. He's the plaintiff. And he dropped the lawsuit just before it was about to come to trial. I had a whole lineup of witnesses, So I know he'd be putting himself on trial for the Kennedy assassination, which he knew he was part of.
So, AJ, we only have about 4 minutes left,
Nixon.
right?
Yeah,
we only got about 4 minutes left, right?
Okay.
You've lived some life, man, right? What are you most proud of? Your proudest accomplishment in life?
I guess solving the Kennedy assassination.
Yeah.
Inventing Dylanology. Inventing garbology, which has turned into like a recycling effort. To see what people are throwing away and what their habits are and how to change them. And fighting Nazis.
Yeah.
And
what do you think now when you see the rise of the Proud Boys and the 3%ers and the Oath Keepers and all these bastards?
Well, the Oath Keepers are like offshoots of Ron Paul.
Right.
I wrote a book, Ron Paul, America's Most Dangerous Nazi. And then we started this bogus committee, Jews Against Ron Paul, and we sent the book to all of Ron Paul's headquarters, and guess what? After that, Ron Paul decided he wanted the embassy moved to Jerusalem, from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem, all of a sudden. Of course, he figured we had all these Jews on his case. All his followers were saying, what? Okay, man, I'll let you go. Thanks for having me on the show.
AJ, we almost lost you, man. We almost lost a living legend, man. Thank you so much for coming back on the show. Thank God.
Thanks for having me, man. Bye-bye.
Take it easy. Bye.